All right, welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute since I've had a hunting related or outdoor related video. So I want to do a recap of the 2021-2022 hunting season. We've done everything from fish, deer hunting, duck and dove, and it has been a good season. I'm going to share my my deer antlers from this past season, and tell you a couple stories, and then hopefully we'll roll into some new videos of whether it's trying to catch the new personal best largemouth bass. We got to break over 10 pounds, so we're shooting for bigger than that this next season, and we've got to try to find another big monster buck for next season. I've been trying to every single year shoot one bigger than the next. If it's not as big, I let it go and let it walk. So let's just start with our antlers, and we'll go from there. Okay. The first one was my first buck that I shot for the season. I shot it in October. It was October the 28th. I got it written down on the back of this little the plaque that we got made. October 28th. Wasn't even looking for this guy. Hadn't even seen him out. Check out the cool little acorn on this one. Little nub, huh? A little hole. I don't know if you can see that right there. His antler. Anyway, so October 28th. I believe it was raining that morning, so I didn't hunt initially in that morning time. So I slept in. Oh, it must have been like 10 o'clock or so. I decided I'm just going to go. Didn't have a whole lot to work on, so I said I'm going to go throw my jacket on and grab my rifle, and I'm going to slip out into the woods and just kind of do a little walking and seeing if I could just kind of stalk up on the deer. And so I kind of read the wind, figured out I was going to kind of walk into the wind and see if I could just happen upon something. And so I kept on easing along this kind of fence and tree line on the property, and boom, saw a doe, a little tiny spike. Watched them for a little while. They kind of walked off. I kept on trucking, walking in a little further. Bam, another doe. Watched her. She kind of eased off, and then I kept on easing in, and I saw another buck. Not this one initially, but another one. Bam, just feeding out next to this old kind of rundown barn, and watched him. Couldn't really decide on him. He looked like he might have been I don't know, 2 years old, and kind of watched him. I thought about him. I picked up, scoped on him. I just didn't want him. I guess didn't have it in me for him, and he kind of walked off, and I kind of stayed there. And I thought, man, I should have shot him. I should have shot that one. And then through the back of the woods, I could see the ear, kind of like that. If you see an ear or tail flickering, you kind of catch that quick little white, and then it just kind of drops it. And I saw that, so I picked up, and I was kind of looking, and I think I saw this guy. I saw this old little boy, and he was just coming. Boom. And keep in mind, I had the wind in my nose. He was in front of me, so he wasn't smelling, he wasn't seeing. It already rained, so the scent was kind of dead in that area. And he's kind of working out, and he's kind of in the back of this brush. And I'm like, man, if he keeps on coming, I think I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to shoot him. I saw these tall ones on this side, and I saw his really tall brow tines. So I saw these twos. Man, they were big. And I saw he looked like he was quiet. He was missing one over here to make him symmetrical. and he kind of kept staying back there in that brush. And I said, "Come on, man!" I didn't have a call, didn't have any horns rattling. I was just kind of just going on stalk mode, just being quiet and just watching and seeing what I saw. So a couple minutes passed. He steps out in kind of a direction that I wasn't expecting him to go, and I wasn't quite set up because I was kind of pressed up against a tree, behind a tree, just kind of being that stalker. And he was kind of easing over. He kind of fed through. I couldn't quite get a good shot, and he started walking back the direction I need him to. And bam, he probably got within 30 yards of me, and came up, leaned up against that tree, and swack, and got him down. I love this it's kind of like a blade almost, you see right there. It's like he was forming two new ones, and a little extra little knob right there. That cool little acorn on top of that one. The kind of hole in the rack. It's just kind of made for a unique rack. No, it wasn't as big as my one last year, but it was that cool kind of story of the experience that I really liked out of this one. This is kind of that stalk experience. So October 28th is about 11:30 or so when it went down. Yep, that's it. I don't really care to do full mount. Euro mount works good for me. Typically, we've done it a couple different ways. They've all worked pretty good. Is pretty much take off the skin, the hide off his head. I try when I boil his head just to get all the other stuff off of it. I keep it out of the water. I keep the antlers out of the water because I don't want to change the color. Usually, people will put varnish on the antlers. I keep my antlers the same color that the day I shot it. I just like that look of this is the way he looked when he fell, and that's the way I like him. So I keep my antlers out of the water. The bucket, it gets boiled. Usually we'll spray it out again. That'll clean out the rest of his skull. And no need to spend any money at a taxidermy when that looks pretty good right there. So there is buck number 1 for the deer season. All right, buck number 2 is the biggest deer I've ever shot in my life. Big old brute. Little backstory: I never saw this deer. No picture. Didn't have a camera in the area. I just hopped on my maps and just via walking and putting some miles on the boots, kind of found a spot that I thought would have been a really good travel area or a good corridor that would put a lot of deer crossing or coming through this area. So it was in a little draw that had a finger coming down off one hill, finger coming down off another hill, a nice creek that runs kind of through this draw, and a lot of hardwoods, so a lot of acorns dropping. I'd found it about a month earlier, and then I was hunting in another spot in my climber, and I kept seeing the buck that I wanted for my wife to shoot, so I decided I'm going to move this stand completely. I'm going to go set it up in this spot that I've been seeing. So I set it up. I hunted it a few times, caught a glimpse of what I think was this guy, but I wasn't sure because he was probably 100 yards off and in some thick stuff. So I don't know if it was him or not. I saw him. I thought, man, I just need to let's just give it some rest, make sure the wind's perfect. I knew I was going to be kind of sitting with the possibility of a deer coming in multiple directions on me, but I had thoughts that he would come from this one direction specifically. And that would be still, again, wind at my nose. I'm looking in the best direction. The few nights I'd sat there, I'd had them cross in front of me, and they would kind of work kind of behind me, but they would really never come from behind me. And they never really spooked off. So I was sitting up kind of high in the tree, and I was just kind of hoping that as the rut was picking up, I was going to be in the right place in the right time. So watching, really for that stand, I was hunting the weather, hunting a good sign, and hunting that rut activity. There are scrapes, there are rubs. I was catching, does coming and going, watching little bucks, trailing does on those early sits. And that's when I kind of said, I'm just going to let this stand rest. I'm going to let it sit and let it soak. And I'm going to pop back in here when the weather drops. The temperature's going to drop. The wind's going to be in the right direction. I'm going to slide up in there, and I'm going to sit for a good little while. So I think November 11th rolled around. Man, I was feeling awful that week. I was just feeling sick. Had this crazy kind of nausea that was coming and going. Just didn't feel like doing anything. But I knew I had to go sit. It was one of those things, man. I was addicted to. I love hunting. I love the thrill of what you're gonna encounter, what you're gonna see, that moment, the food that it's gonna provide. Everything about hunting, I love. And so I get up and do it regardless. Even if it's duck hunting, I get up and do it for the dog. I get up and do it because I love the sport of it. So I wasn't feeling good that morning, November 11th. I looked at the weather. It was going to drop about, I think it was a 20-degree drop, and that was going to be perfect. It's going to be nice, cool, crisp morning. The wind was going to be blowing kind of across me, into my nose, blowing my scent out of the area that I was going to watch and form. I get up in the stand, and I'm just feeling awful, man. I'm near throwing up, that kind of nausea. No clue what it was from. And I'm kind of leaning over my rail, just feeling bad. And I get this kind of good wave while I'm feeling good. And I said, I'm going to sit here as long as I can. I'm going to wait them out. So sunrise comes. Some does push through, no bucks. I then have this kind of one single doe come through, and then about 30 seconds behind her, here comes this little maybe 2-year-old 6 or 8 point, and he's kind of pushing her off. And then it kind of goes kind of quiet the rest of the morning. Oh, and then I say about my time stamp's probably wrong, but it's probably about 10 o'clock or so. I'm kind of looking back towards this creek, and all of a sudden I see this big old giant, boom, bound down out of the creek, comes up the next bank, and he's right in front of me, right? And it's this guy right here that I got. So he cruises up in front of me, almost the same distance as this other buck, about 30 yards. I'm shooting him with a 7mm 08, and I was well prepared to shoot him out at 100 yards. But hey, man, when you can shoot a big giant like this, I'll take him at whatever distance, Preferably, I love shooting deer up and close. I love seeing what they look like. I've never really taken a long shot. I never had to. So just by playing the wind, being in the right spot, learning deer traffic, where they go. So he was about 30 yards, boom, shot him on broadside. He ran maybe another 40 yards piled up, and had a nice long drag out of the woods with this guy. I had to go pull him down a creek bank and back up a creek bank that was probably a 10-foot bank. So that was a doozy right there. And then I had to drag him about 100 yards to the closest spot that I could get a buggy to pick him up. But anyway, check this old guy out. Rather small brow tines, but for the most part, this guy is symmetrical. Beautiful deer. I was so excited to get him. I was so pumped and so stoked when I shot him. Took a picture, sent one to my dad. I was excited. I'm holding him. He's stuck up against my body, so kind of comparing. I think, of course, the camera probably makes him look huge anyway, but. And I'll grab this one. Let's go check them out here. If you can see those two together. So I thought this deer was a pretty decent deer, and then bam, this guy came along, and so anyway, that's the first time I've ever shot 2 bucks in a season. I thought, why not? Let's give it a shot. So man, so now I've got to find a deer that's bigger than this guy. That's always the goal for me. Is it might take a couple years of letting some deer walk, and but anyway, 2 deer that put food on the table. As well as I shot two other does. One doe we kept for ourselves. Another doe we helped out a family who could use some meat. So I processed the deer myself. That doesn't cost me anything except the time and maybe your initial expense and any kind of knives you have or any kind of food sealers or vacuum sealers that you have. That's what we like to do. Is I'll cut up steaks, I'll cut up roasts, I'll cut up loins, and then we ground a lot. So, we have 50 to 60 pounds of ground, so many steaks, so many loins, so many different roasts cuts that I have, and then throughout the year, that's pretty much what we eat is venison. Yeah. I had this other buck that was on camera, or excuse me, not on camera, but I had seen him multiple times that I was going to put my wife Megan on. And goodness, early season, I was kind of sitting in this one spot, and I saw him, and I thought, man, it'd be a nice deer for her to shoot. And I'd see him on the regular. I was seeing him super early season, so as soon as gun season came in October, I was seeing him right there in those first few weeks. And I would move to another spot. I'd come back to that stand, and I'd see him again. So I said, all right, he's pretty much well patterned. And so I'd set up us a blind, brought her in, and of course, bam, he would come in. But he would come in either too far away and not give us a good shot. He'd be standing behind trees. He'd be coming in at last light. Or he'd already be down there when we would try to sneak in on him. So we kind of had this kind of time frame of when we had to be in the blind. Was usually somewhere around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. We needed to be in there because he was either going to be down there feeding, down there with his does, or he was going to already come through. So she would get off work. She would zoom to wherever I was. We would change. We would ease down into the woods. We would sit in that blind. And I can't tell you how many times, probably at least 8 or 10 times, we would have close encounters with them. And it'd be at that too far of distance, or just not a good shot that we wanted to take. But this guy that was waiting on her had this, I don't think he was quite a 10-point, I think he was an 8-point, or maybe even a weird like 7. He had this huge, massive tall tines on every single one. Didn't look like he had any brow tines, but just big old, massive tines. And I thought one night, I thought sure enough we're gonna have this guy, and we're sitting there, and man, we see him, and he's coming in, and he's staying hidden, he's staying kind of pushed back behind trees, and then he disappears. So I pull out my horns, I start rattling, I grunt. And this buck, I don't know if it was the one we're after or not, but man, he zooms around us through the field, comes right in front of us at probably about 20 feet. And it turns out not to be him. Nice little, maybe 2-year-old 8-point. And he's just like, what in the world was this rattling and blowing going on? And he's staring at us, trying to figure out what we are. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to shoot you. But it was kind of one of those cool little moments. Hey, you could, you shoot this deer that I just called in, and we'll tag him. And anyway, we ended up not shooting that one. We put in more countless nights on her deer, and never got him. So either he got leery of us, or or he moved, kind of turned nocturnal. I then threw out some cameras, never got any pictures of him, so I'm thinking that he just kind of wised up to what we had going on. So anyway, he's still out there. Hopefully we're going to catch him. So anyway, I hope you guys had a good hunting season. Whatever fur or fowl that you chase after. Have you had a good season? Tell me what you did down below, or what was your favorite moment or experience, or what you thought of your deer season or your bird season. And just drop a comment down below. If you liked it, hit that like button. I'm ready to pull into the next season. We got turkey season coming up. We got a couple warm days that I'm getting ready to throw the fishing rod in the back of the buggy and go just see if we can catch some things. I'm ready to go do a little catfishing, stock up on our fish supply for the year. I'm ready to do some prescribed burning, do some more wildlife management, habitat improvements around our property or around here where I'm working. I'm ready to get back in the garden, to plant whatever we need for the next year. Plant some more corn. Man, I guess we'll probably grow sweet corn. The green beans again. Might venture out into some of our raised beds and see what kind of tomatoes we can get going. Probably do some more flowers, sunflowers, zinnias, cosmos. I got to go through and kind of find out some of the colors that I want to get or retry. I planted these beautiful lime zinnias. I'll probably get those again and try those. I want to plant some white sunflowers and some brown sunflowers. But hopefully maybe do some camping or just maybe some other adventures. I don't know. I might not get to any of that. Our baby is due in June, and so the whole world's going to change and revolve around that baby for a little while. But I'm going to at least try to get outdoors. I'm excited to get our little baby girl outdoors and introduce her to all the things that I love to do, and just be able to spend time in nature with her. So if you don't see me, thanks you for stopping by. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment if you want to. And I guess we'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.